Hello, welcome to Read Read. Today I want to talk about a very unique book. This is David Markson's Reader's Block. So I found out about David Markson because a lot of people like Michael Silverblatt, like David Foster Wallace, and many others I'm sure are a big fan of his book Wittgenstein's Mistress, which I still have yet to read because I still have yet to find because it's quite a rare book. I don't think it has a publisher right now, and the only editions I've been able to see online were just like hardcovers for exorbitant prices, and there's no way I can do it. There's no way I can afford to buy it just for one book. But honestly, Reader's Block is kind of similar, although not as bad. Just to give you some context of how I actually even got this book, I found it kind of miraculously in a book box bundle, and that contained 22 books, and I bought that bundle just for this book. There were some other good things, like I got a new copy of A Frolic of His Own, and I got a Franzen book, and yeah. But just to give you some context, buying that whole 22 book box bundle was cheaper than any edition I could find of this online. And although this was used, it was really good condition, just some folded pages. So yeah, that's why it can be a little bit hard for me to recommend it, but because I don't even know if you'll be able to find it. But if you do, please do get it up, because it is a really amazingly unique experience. We've talked a little bit on the channel about books that do interesting structural form things. So I did talk about Lost in the Funhouse. A lot of people have been saying for me to read House of Leaves, and I know I should eventually get around to it, but I just haven't purchased it yet. I know I'll like it because of the intertextual stuff, but also Pale Fire, which I haven't made a video on because I kind of want to reread it again before I make a video. But yeah, this is Markson's attempt to create a new form or structure for the novel. Markson is was a postmodernist author, and this was one of the 4 books he wrote later in his life. This and also another kind of trilogy of books, the last novel, This Is Not a Novel, and something else, I can't remember the name of the third one. They were all written after he was 70 years old. And yeah, at this point, I think I'll just start talking about the book, because what the book is what the story is, I guess, is that there is a character whose name is Reader, who wants to write a novel. He sits down to try and write a novel. However, in the process of doing so, he's constantly assailed by miscellaneous trivia, like literature trivia, and it keeps distracting him. And so how the book is presented is it is just lines and lines and lines of literature trivia interspersed with little kind of mentions or writings that refer to the reader or protagonist. And protagonist is the protagonist of the story that Reader is trying to write. And so yeah, so the book starts off being immensely addicting. You will just flip to a random page. You are meant to read it in order, but just flipping to a random page, you will just get a whole bunch of literature trivia. So, none of John Milton's daughters was given an education, though 2 of the 3 were taught to read to him in his blindness, in languages of which they did not understand a word. Next entry, Boethius was executed by having a thong inexorably tightened about his temples. Next one, as a boy, Tennyson could recite all 103 of Horace's odes from memory. Montaigne claimed he knew those and the rest of Horace as well. Next entry, no life back there at all. What life here now? ? And so you'll just go through, and like I said, maybe you'll get probably 2 or 3 lines per page at maximum that refer to the reader, but the rest of the book is just literature trivia. And so in that sense, the book is absolutely addicting, because you can just binge through and you're just reading fun, miscellaneous trivia about literature. But at some point, probably straight away, but at some point really quickly, you will be able to abstract what's going on in the reader's mind based on the selections of trivia that he's choosing. So most of the things that you will hear him talk about are how an author died, often whether or not they committed suicide, the kind of personal characteristic of a famous artist, and the most common one that you'll see like dozens of times is blank was an anti-Semite. and then also things referring to works. So there's an entry that I think I remember. The vocabulary in Shakespeare's plays include 29,066 different words. There are 29,899 different words in Ulysses by Joyce. And so there will also be things that will talk about just like how a work was made, the conditions in the life of an author, but you're also getting these little fragments that are the reader trying to contemplate what's going on in his life, what he has left, what the effect of having all of this literature knowledge is doing to him. And the amazing thing is that at some point you realize that you are falling into exactly the same trap as the reader. So all of these bits of trivia are actively detrimental to the readers, to readers' process in writing a novel, and in a sort of desperate attempt, he's throwing all of this stuff onto you as the reader. And so, but because facts of like trivia facts never get repeated, you are able to just binge through, and you're so like kind of dangerously curious to just go on and find and learn about all of these things. But of course you're just going to end up in the exact same position as reader, and so it's an amazing experience where you know that the actual process of reading the book is bad for you, and the reader has already suffered all of this stuff, but you can't stop reading it because it is so digestible and so bingeable, and it's really, as Kurt Vonnegut says on the back, it's hypnotic, so you just can't not binge it. And in that sense, it's an amazing book. So yeah, and it's hard for me to really convey the effect. I can't really read anything. Most of these tags are not like tags of facts of literature, but of things referring to reader, because I knew kind of going in, I knew that there's no point putting a tag on a bit of trivia that I enjoyed, because all of them are enjoyable. And so yeah, but then there were some times when I couldn't help it, and it's just like, well, what good is having this piece of knowledge? So in that sense, it's a really, really unique experience, and there's not much more for me to say about it. You, as one of the entries says, the reader says, sometimes. This is something cool. Early on, the reader establishes that you won't always know what I refers to, what the pronoun I. So it could be reader, it could be protagonist, and I think also sometimes it can be David Markson himself. So one of the entries is, I have a narrative, but you will be put to it to find it. And then just, more miscellaneous strings, and you realize pretty quickly, if you know any biographical information on David Markson, that reader is definitely just him. And I know it's literally obvious, but it doesn't, like, reader didn't have to be him, but Markson chose to make it him. So, for example, reader has the exact same birthday. There are times when reader talks about experiences with having cancer, and the forms of cancer pretty much align with what David Markson himself experienced, and like literary past, conversations with friends, like with Donald Barthelme and I think Jack Kerouac as well. So yeah, it becomes this really amazing autobiography that is almost nothing, that has almost no information about the actual person, but you can tell exactly what the concerns of the reader are by these pieces of information. So amazing experience. I don't know if I'll reread this for some time, but I am very curious to just see the effect that having read it has on me, and just to kind of constantly, will I go through the world being kind of cautious to learn anything, right? Like, what has this book done to me? And what will it do to you if you get a chance to read it? I hope it will be, I hope you do give it a chance. It is a great book, and thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.